Somehow, I read enough books this month to actually do a wrap-up. Usually I read like 2 books a month. This month I read 10 books. The first book I read is Nurse Matilda Goes to Hospital by Christiana Brand. It is the 3rd Nurse Matilda book in this little anthology that I have. I really like these books, but they're really repetitive. It's kind of just the same thing happening over and over again. I still gave it 5 stars because the stories are very special to me and I really like them. I think the cat wants to be let out, but I'm not sure. I recommend it if you have kids or if you really like kid thingies, stories. Yeah, I said that in a good way. I read Howls Moving Castle because it's the book my book club is reading this month, and it was absolutely amazing fantasticness, 5 stars. This is literally my new favorite book. As you can see, I tabbed it to death, and I also annotated it to death, and this is the first book that I've ever tabbed. Fun fact. I wanted to try it. I really liked it. Essentially, this young girl gets turned into an old lady, and she has to go to this person named Howls who has a moving castle. It's romancy, a little bit, sort of, but like in a good way. Usually when I say books are romancy in a negative way, I mean they're romancy in a bad way. And this one, it wasn't super hyper focused on. There were other aspects to the plot that we were paying attention to other than just the romance, so we were not ignoring the whole story for the romance. This book had such an interesting magic system. I can't wait to read like the next 2 books, even though I am kind of disappointed to have learned that it's not from these characters' point of view, but it's in the same world and I'm assuming they're still there, and I'm really interested in how magic works in this world because it's very fun. It's sort of like a fairy tale in book form, and it's hilarious. Literally every line in this book, even during times that were serious, was funny. I don't know if you can see or not, but the green tabs are parts that I liked. Oh wait, no, the yellow tabs are the parts that I liked. Green tabs are like discussion things. Most of them were just really funny scenes. And the red tabs are for parts I didn't like. This one little red tab right here, which that one was for Christianity reasons. There were a few little tiny things in this that were a little too real-life witchcrafty for me, but it was still super good, and I think that you should read this if you have not yet, because you should read it. I also read Carnival at Candlelight, which is the 33rd Magic Tree House book. I'm hoping I can get back to reading these because they're really fun, and I thought this one especially is a really good one. I haven't put this one on Goodreads yet. I probably should, so I don't really have a star rating of it, but I think I'd give it 5 stars. This is one of my more favorite of the Magic Tree House books because it was really good. How many times have I said really good just now? And then I listened to the audiobook of Many Waters by Madeleine L'Engle, which is the way I recommend reading Madame L'Engle's books, because her books are filled with really interesting concepts, but not really super engaging plots. This one especially, I think. Basically what happens in it, Sandy and Dennis from A Wrinkle in Time go back in time to right before the Great Flood and Noah's Ark happened, and they meet Noah and they meet all these people, and it's really interesting to see her imagining of what life was like there with all the Nephilim and magical creatures. It was really interesting. It's pretty much sort of like a slice of life book, but in pre-flood times. I gave this 3 stars. I was really worried about Guts. I really liked Smile, but Sisters was, I didn't really get the point of Sisters, but this one was more like Smile in that aspect. I really liked it, where I understood where it started, and why it ended where it ended, and I thought it had a good, relatable theme through it. It's essentially about fear. I do recommend this series to all and everyone, and I gave this 5 stars, and it was very good. And then I read Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Muratia. Yeah? This was a very interesting book. Essentially, she works at a convenience store, and she has no ambition to do anything else other than just work at the convenience store. And she has to deal with people thinking that's weird, and people thinking she needs to get married, and thinking she needs to get a better job. But she just really likes working at the convenience store and doesn't care to do anything else with her life. I would say it's definitely 18 plus. A good handful of big swear swears and sexual jargon that I did not appreciate. I think I gave it 3 stars, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to give it 3 stars or 2 stars or 4 stars. Mainly because there was this one character in here, which I don't know if he was supposed to show us the point of the book, or if he was here to be like an anti-point of the book thing. Does that make sense? I was hoping this book would have more of a theme of you should do what you love and what God has set you on the earth to do because that's what you are best at doing and thus that is your role in society sort of thing. But for a few chapters, this didn't really have chapters, but like parts. There were a few parts around the middle and end that sounded like it was more saying it's okay to be a useless person. And I couldn't tell if the useless person thing was like an anti-thing to contrast the main thing the book was trying to say, or if the book was just trying to say that. I think that it did ultimately go with the first thing that I wanted it to say, but I might just be in denial. Right at the end of the month, I read the Odd Ones Out book. I wasn't very happy with it, personally. There's 13 chapters, and each chapter is basically sort of a video. 8 of them are basically just the scripts for his videos, and the other 5, I'm assuming, are just scripts that never got made into videos. They didn't even like tie in at the end, it was just a bunch of random videos in book form. Pretty much a more boring version of his videos that he made, with an occasional new tangent or something reworded. I don't really recommend, even if you are a fan of his, or maybe especially if you are a fan of his because you've already experienced all this. I gave it 2 stars. My first DNF of the month was the Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. I was reading this and kind of enjoying it, but also like the Christmas season and stuff all happened, and I still wasn't that deep into it, and I had a bunch of other books I had to read. It was kind of dragging on. I'm disappointed with this book because it had a lot of potential to be a really funny and fun story. Essentially, you have this modern day guy. It isn't modern day anymore, but you know what I mean. And he goes back in time to King Arthur's Court and basically tries to modernize everything. And it did have some funny parts and some fun parts. We blew up Merlin's tower, but he went on so many long pages long broodings about human nature in this time, and it was really repetitive and it was really boring. And when I was considering finishing it, I flipped to the last page and saw that it actually looked like it ended pretty dismally, so I DNF'd it. I also DNF'd Journey to the Center of the Earth, which I was supposed to read for book club, but I got like halfway through it in the audiobook. And I also realized that I was reading the wrong audiobook. That's a weird abridged version where the main characters' names are changed and meh. But this book was super incredibly boring. 2 hours into the audiobook, I was like, wow, we're still not underground yet, but I'm sure that we are about to get to the interesting part. And then 3 hours into the audiobook, I'm like, wow, we sure are staying with a lot of people, but I'm sure it's about to get interesting. And then 4 hours into the audiobook, I was like, okay, we're underground now, but still nothing is happening. Stop it. Just nothing was happening. And it was so detailed about every little thing. I felt like I was reading an actual scientific account of a journey that isn't particularly magical. So I only recommend this if you're into like scientific account sounding things. And I also didn't like the narrator. He was very annoying. I also DNF'd Drizzle within like 30 pages. I went ahead and read 50 pages because I wanted to give it a fair chance. I don't know, it was just bad. The writing wasn't great. Everything felt really forced. The characters were all like cardboard cutouts. This is in its thing upside down. It was also just way too sweet. I like fun, happy-go-lucky books, but this was too much. I think what really killed it is the fact that the main character lives in a castle separate from her parents, and also they have vegetables that taste like chocolate. It was just too much. There were also like 3 different political things I saw in it. I filmed a solitary review of this book, and I don't know if I'm going to post it yet or not. I'm also unhauling this book, so there's that. Alright, that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found some new books you want to read. If you did, be sure to do this thingy. Each like is a bigger percentage that I'll actually read this much in February. Bye!